Jai Hind folks, this is the second episode on clothing, dressing. Probably the first episode on clothing or dressing was too brash, bold and bountiful for many of you. It was intended to be so because spirituality is not for the covers. Well, last time we colored and covered colors. Now we want to go beyond colors to see what other aspects of clothing are important. And in the previous episode, we already saw that the most significant aspect of all of this is for the highest level of spirituality of the tri-gunā-tītā state. You don't need all of this. The clothing that has been given by Mother Nature, our own skin, is far more than sufficient. And for weathering, safeguarding ourselves from the climate and many other aspects, including pollution. Again, Mother Nature has bestowed a cap for us, a mask for us, natural mask. In fact, there have been studies done in Great Britain how many bacteria you can avoid by having a beard and how healthy people with beards are compared to those without them. Nails, so many aspects of nature are natural and animals don't use any clothing. It's we humans who have brought this up almost as if it's a necessity. Well, this is not surprising for a race which thinks coke is more necessary than water, cement is more necessary than mud, and so on and so forth. Well, that was for yesterday and tomorrow in the roti and the makan section. Now we're talking of kapda. As I said, the highest level of spirituality of the Naga sadhus and the Digambara Jains and many other traditions is to go with the clothing that Mother Nature has given to us in the metaphysical realms. Suppose we are not up there, or rather, as I said, in here, then the next best is the sāttvic nature. So the three chakras here, Sahasrara, Matrupitru and the Guru Gayatri, are associated with the tri-gunā-tītā state beyond qualities. Now we come to the next best, which is slightly inferior, which is sattvā, operating from our Ajna chakra, Vishuddhi chakra or the Anahata chakra when dress is permitted. What kind of dress is permitted? Like what I'm wearing today, unknotted, unstitched and uncut. As you see, it's entirely unimpacted in any rājasic or tāmasic sense, because rajas means cutting the cloth and tamas means stitching it by poking it with a needle, either manually, which is slightly better, or with a machine, mechanical machine, worse, electrical machine, even worse. Talking of sewing machines also. Well, what is called a bikini in common parlance is what is this two-piece suite consisting of what I'm wearing at the bottom, which is called a kache, panche, kache as in kacha in Hindi. In Kannada it is kache, which means essentially raw, and panche is dhoti or veshti or veti. This Kannada word or Kannada term, kache panche, has of course many other connotations in Maharashtra, West Bengal, Punjab, North India, Andhra Pradesh, pancha dhoti as we call it, and veshti or veti as we call it in Tamil Nadu. And Malayalis, of course, most famous for still keeping this popular even in the common man's world, or for that matter the politician's world. That's dhoti's common dress over there. And what I'm wearing on the top is the anga vastra. We say even in a Guru Puja, Vastram samapayami Shri Guru Charana Kamalebhyo Namaha. That's an uncut, unstitched cloth. Could be a one piece, in which case you wear only the bottom and antarayan, or you wear along with the top, which is the uttarayan. And a three piece is also possible when you are not very confident about this bottom staying there, if you have not worn it properly. So then you tie it up over here. So that becomes a three-piece cloth. Now all of these have a female parallel as well, which is the sari. Of course, in its original form. What do we have now? Going away from cotton to non-natural fibers. Natural fibers, again, there is linen, there is jute, there is bamboo fiber, and many other possibilities are there. That's all fine. But once we go to polyfiber, microfibers like nylon, etc., polyester, or mix of polyester and natural fibers like polycotton, etc., that's where the negative energies of tamas and rajas rise, even if you have not stitched or cut the cloth. So one way of going below even sattvā is to go for cut and stitch clothing with buttons and hooks and what have you, zips. And the other one, which is unfortunately become the common rule of the day, the new normal as they call it, is that more than 90% of the market share is for these polyfiber synthetic fibers, which naturally makes them cheap because of the volumes, scales, you see, and it's creating a kind of psychosis that natural fibers are expensive. Well, obviously they would be if you reduce it in scales to such a small quantity, less than 10%, right, of all the natural fibers. Well, they are making a comeback. They're making a comeback not only only for human beings, but even for automobiles, aircraft, secondary structures, and so on and so forth. There's a revolution coming of natural fibers, natural mattresses, natural composites, which are going to be the future anyway. So when we move away from this, what happens with these polyfibers? One is the rājasic and tāmasic energies that they bring with them for the human being who's wearing it. And the other, of course, even more severe, is the fact that these are dumped so quickly after they are bought. Because they are so cheap, people don't want to wear the same thing over and over again. They get bored. Unlike me, who has 25 to 30-year-old clothing still with me in the perfect shape, and I can wear it as if it was new. That's the upkeep. So once again, how you fold them, how you keep them, how you wash them after every use, all these are important. That retains more sāttvic energy with it. So by dumping these polyester, nylon, and other polyfiber synthetic clothing, we are polluting the landfills and therefore the soil, the water, the air that we breathe. And worst fact is that many of these fibers are inflammable and therefore they are coated with fire resistant and many other coatings which are all carcinogenic, toxic, poisonous. And we are thrusting these on even our children. So unfortunate. That's the very sad state of affairs from which we need to move out as quickly as possible. Already there is a restriction of the panca-kōśās which reduce our infinite reality to a finitude. The annamaya-kōśā, the pranamaya-kōśā, the manomaya-kōśā, the vijnanamaya-kōśā, and the anandamaya-kōśā. All of these are already constricting us. The worst being, of course, the annamaya-kōśā, which makes us into this tiny physical body of at the most 6 feet by 1 feet by half a feet. And so that's 3 cubic feet is all that we are. Now, in reality, we are infinite, not only in a spatial sense, but in a temporal sense as well, without a beginning and without an end. And that's why these unstitched clothing like a angavastram or a dhoti or a sari is to show that it is beginningless and endless. That is the whole idea of having a long cloth. You are essentially simulating the fact that compared to the thickness of the cloth, the length is so large that it's kind of infinite and gives us the feeling that we are infinite in the sense of space, which means we are omnipresent, and in sense of time, which means we are eternal. Both these need to be reminded to us because we are not doing the best possible, that is to remain nude or naked or bare-bodied, full Monty creatures that we were supposed to be, or at the most wear leaves like cavemen, etc. We have degenerated, and let's not degenerate so much that we start wearing stitched clothes and cut clothes and non-natural synthetic clothes, which reduces even beyond the sāttvic nature. Once you start cutting it, it goes to the rājasic nature, and once you start stitching it and are using synthetic fibers, goes to the tāmasic nature. Now, there are certain situations where you might not be able to avoid these things. I also do have such situations. Well, you can make such certain exceptions, but at least when you have the freedom to be who you are, wear these uncut, unstitched clothes and use these as crutches to enhance your spirituality. Beyond a certain level, of course, food, clothing, and shelter do not matter in terms of a spiritual growth, but we are not yet there. As sadhaks, we need to take advantage of these small things which are of great significance to us right here and now. Be it the sāttvic food that we eat, the sāttvic clothing that we wear. Already I talked of colors. Today we talked about the types of fabrics and the types of stitches, etc. that you can go with. Unstitched, unsewn, right? Uncut, natural fibers. Way to go. Second best, of course, compared to nothing at all, but who is so brave? Well, I showed that that bravery is possible is during the last episode, but well, it's not for everybody every day, right? So the next best. And so this, at least when we are at home, we can wear this, and this is an amazing fashion statement. You can start using it more and more for some of your outdoor activities too. And it's so flexible though. If you tie your panca-kōśās properly, the kind of aeration that you have, the kind of interaction that we have with the panchabhutas, be it earth, be it water, be it fire that is energy, be it air that is gas, or be it with space-time, all of it is far more phenomenal because the idea is we are not different from the source panchabhutas. This small quantity of panchabhuta that we have extracted from the source of earth, water, fire, air, and space is but a part of it and has to continuously transact and interact with it. In fact, the ultimate truth is we are beyond all of this in the metaphysical, and therefore there is absolutely not even an interaction but a union or a yoga. But to reach there, at least we should allow for the transaction to take place. We keep shielding ourselves unnecessarily from our own source and our own destination. How do you expect to reach the destination? How do you expect to remember the source? So please take advantage of all of these things. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya.